What's going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa. Of course, my co host, Justine, is right there with me. And this is episode 86. Today on the show, we were joined by a wonderful guest. But before we get into it, I just want to get a shout out to Impulse Artists for sending us some wonderful guests and suggesting some wonderful artists that would be wonderful guests on the show. So I want to give a shout out to them. They work really, really hard, and I really appreciate them considering our podcast. Today on this show, I was joined by Temme Scott, and it was such a wonderful conversation about mental health awareness, and of course, her release, Along Near. It was really great to get to chat with Temme all about everything she does in this release and leading up to this release, because we actually had to reschedule this, and I'm really glad we did, because I was able to get to listen to this and really dive into it before this conversation, which was really great to have more to talk about instead of not hearing it. I appreciate all the time in Temme Scott's busy schedule and her being with me on a Sunday and having a wonderful conversation. I was really glad to meet her dog Rooster in this. So such a wonderful conversation. So let's just get into it. You know, at the end, all the links are below in the description. Go check out Along Year. It's a wonderful release, and I think a lot of you will like it. Even if you're not sure if it's something different, give it a check out because it's so wonderful. But let's get right into it. Here is my conversation with Temme Scott. Something we love to start off with is, what are your first memories of falling in love with music? Because I know Avril Lavigne and Taylor Swift kind of inspired you to pick up the guitar at a younger age. So for you, what, if you can remember them, was there any moment that you were like, this is how I'm falling in love with music and this may be my path?
I think it was honestly when I was really little, like between 3 and 6. I grew up ski racing. I started skiing when I was like really little, and I was obsessed with The Wizard of Oz, and I was obsessed with Annie and all the music from both of those movies. And I would just come down the hill skiing, singing out loud, but I thought nobody could hear me because like it's so loud in your helmet and there's wind and whatever. I think my parents told me like many years later that I was just always singing while I was skiing. I don't think there was like one specific moment, but I think it's funny that I started like this athletic life, but at the same time I was just falling in love with music.
Oh, I love that. And I love, yeah, I mean, think
But
about
totally by
Annie.
accident, like
Yeah.
there was nothing pressuring me or hoping that I'd do anything or whatever. I started performing for my family just like on the fireplace. And yeah, I just have these really specific memories of being like in a slalom course and being like, the sun will come. And being like, okay, what is going on?
Oh, that's so cool. A lot of people, they'll say, okay, they were in the car or their teacher, like a music teacher, but it's really cool to hear about like Wizard of Oz and Annie. And those are such, I mean, I can stand out and musically, just they just stick out. And that's so cool
Yeah.
that that kind of set you on your path without maybe you even knowing or like not wanting to
Yeah,
find it at that
totally an
age. And that's
accident.
so cool.
Totally an accident. Yeah, I wouldn't go by anything but Dorothy for like my mom said like 3 or 4 years.
Oh,
I
wow.
believed I was Dorothy for a while.
Oh, that's so cool. It's so cool to like think about that. Like, yeah, because it's such, even that image of Dorothy, it's so iconic with the
Yeah.
outfit and just everything. And when I was younger, I loved Dorothy too. I probably like 2 or 3 Halloweens. That's what I was
Oh
like, I'm
yeah,
going to be the
so
Wizard of
many
Oz. I'm
Halloween.
going to do it.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen that movie, and so I need to watch that movie back. I don't even know. I haven't seen it in so long.
Just even thinking, I'm like, when it was the last time I watched it? I don't even know. So now I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, maybe later, like when we're doing nothing for a Sunday, let's watch it again.
Yeah.
And even you, I know originally from Baltimore,
Yeah.
and now you're LA based. So for you, how is being in LA? Because I think LA gets that bad rap a little bit from some people. They think it's, just celebrities or that it maybe not as friendly. But for you, how has that played a role in your songwriting being based in LA?
I think honestly, it's just being surrounded by so many other songwriters. I think writing in Baltimore, not that I'm sure there's many songwriters in Baltimore, but I think writing growing up, I didn't feel like there was like a community around me. And I think because LA is obviously such a hub for music and songwriting, you're just kind of surrounded by people that are doing it all together. I think I started co-writing a lot more when I came out here. And I've been here for almost 9 years now, 8, 9 years. So I was really able to get inspired by other writers instead of just being kind of like locked in my room. Honestly, being locked in my room by myself is still my favorite way to write. I'm not the best co-writer. I don't love co-writing. Yeah, I think just being around and being around so much music and hearing new stuff come out like all the time. I think that LA is kind of the place to be for that. Maybe Nashville, maybe New York, but I've really enjoyed writing with people here and writing here by myself.
And I know I was reading too, like you put on these house shows too, which
Yeah,
is really
I love
cool.
the
So
house.
that was really cool to see like that goes on. Cause for me, obviously I don't write music. I listen to it and love it. But that was really cool to see that stuff like that goes on and
Yeah.
that you're a part of that. So I love to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I started the house show thing. I mean, that's like really how I started playing my own stuff in college. We would just all host like apartment shows, you know? We're like, there's not really venues around the college that I went to. So we just host shows in our apartments, and I just kind of became really kind of intrigued with that whole scene. And when I moved out to this side of town, we had a really big living room. I still have a really big living room. And the first thing I thought when I walked into this house was, oh, we could have shows here. Instead of like, where's the couch gonna go? Where's the lamp? It's like, no, this is like a venue.
Oh, that's
So
so
we've been doing
cool.
that for a while, but we stopped during, COVID 2020. And we've just brought the first show back in, I forget what month it was, I think July. So it had been quite some time, but I love hosting. I love putting events together and producing events and everything like that, honestly.
Oh, and that's just again, because I remember like growing up, they would do like the basement shows. That's where everybody would do. They would, and so it's like now again to hear like the cool things like that exist for songwriters and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
musicians, because I feel like it's such a DIY thing now, or it's TikTok, where it's like, all right, this is how you reach people. And now it's like, well, maybe not necessarily with cool things like you're a part of. You can have a community of musicians together and not have to maybe make a 30-second clip on, content creation. You can get out
Sure.
there and physically be there.
Right. It's just always been so much more rewarding for me to do things in person. I try to show things online as much as I can because I know that's how most people are going to discover you, but I honestly would rather play for 20 people than like have a viral clip. I don't know, it just stresses me
Mhm.
out in a different way. I think it's still stressful to play for 20 people, like it's even more vulnerable, but I think that I've kind of tried to build my career in small steps like that instead of trying to reach the most amount of people I can. It's just trying to like actually really make friends, make connections with people, meet my fans and invite them to things and know them. And yeah, that's been like the most rewarding part for me.
Yeah, and even talking about making connections, I know this record, A Long Year, that just came out, it was funded through Kickstarter, which was
Yeah.
really cool. Like, how did that feel again to have like that many people, whether they're just listeners or just people that believe in you, or probably both. If they're listeners, they believe in your music. How did that feel to have that funded through Kickstarter?
Honestly, I couldn't believe that it happened so fast. I have no idea how that happened. Like I want to say I was expecting it or hoping that would happen, but it just came through in like 2 weeks and people were just sharing and sharing and sharing. It was a lot of like my parents' friends and Facebook sharing and stuff like that. But honestly, I'm still kind of speechless when I think about the fact that like that many people donated anywhere from 25 to $1,000 and funded my record in like 2 weeks. I don't get it. I'm so honored. I still owe all those people so much. I just owe them everything. I can't believe that the record was actually made and funded and I didn't have to pay for it. It was like the
Yeah.
most relieving part of the whole thing was that I could actually focus on the songs instead of how am I going to find money for this? How am I going to pay my producers? How am I going to pay the musicians? And the fact that it happened so quickly, I think really just motivated me even further to get it done.
Guess what are you most proud of, like in the songs? Or is there a favorite song that you're really, probably all of them are your favorite, right? They all have a meaning to you, but is there a song that this is the one right here that like I'm really proud of?
There's two right now that feel like my favorite. One of them is called Not Gonna Be Okay, and one of them is called Poems and Candy. And they're kind of similar songs. They're both really they're just kind of like acoustic stripped songs on the record. They're really kind of pared down. But those songs feel like some of the most honest songwriting on the record. And I think also my like songwriting nature is to be like is to keep things simple and pared down. And so regardless of how much production went into everything else, I think it's still kind of like really relieving for me to hear just myself and a guitar. But those two songs, yeah, also deal a lot with mental health related stuff and just feeling like nothing is okay, but having them feels like it was worth it for some reason. But yeah, those two are sticking out for sure to me right now. Kind of the deeper cuts on the record, not the pop fun ones.
But that's why it was so great to feature, because we try to feature a lot of different artists on our show for that reason, because it was so nice to hear this record of like, okay, I'm going to be able to push this maybe to other people that maybe if they like the pop punk or they like these like heavier music or whatever, to see that there is such beauty in that and just vulnerability of somebody and a guitar and their voice. And those are my favorite people. Like I think Chris Carrabba, Dashboard Confessional, like just him and his guitar. I mean, now I know he plays with a bigger band at times, or the singer Anthony Green too, just his guitar and him, there's something about just that. So that's why, again, I was so excited to feature this record and feature you, because I said, this is something different for our show. So I'm really, again, glad that this is out there and we can hopefully push it to a few people.
Thanks. Yeah. I love making the fun stuff so much. It's also relieving in its own right. But I think I'll just always come back to like myself in my room with a guitar, but it just feels right.
Yeah. And I know one thing when I was doing a little reading about you, I was seeing that one thing you were trying to do is overcome the idea of perfectionism. And that's something that I'm trying to find that balance of even producing this podcast and getting it out. How did you manage that while creating this record?
I didn't. I didn't. I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. It was such a tough year. I think I just realized that what I was searching for was not going to be found. Like being perfect, sounding perfect, any of it. I just really had to let go of the idea that that was possible. I don't really know how. I went to a lot of therapy. I went to a lot of treatment. I went to all sorts of, I like went through a lot of work to get there. But I think even regardless, I just realized it wasn't going to happen for me. I didn't need it to. I didn't want it to. I still like to, I don't want to aim for perfection, but I still like to, really put as much work in as I can. But I think just kind of like setting your own level of perfect for yourself is really the only way to do it. Just say like, well, this is the best that I could have done with the tools that I had, with the time that I had. So you can call it perfect,
Oh, see, I need to hear that too, because that's my biggest thing is like, I'll be sitting there even like Monday night. So our episodes go out Tuesday and sometimes Fridays, but I'll be sitting there like at the last minute. Oh, Monday, let me tweak this. It's not. And again, anything that I hear, nobody else has ever said like, hey, that sounds off, or that's not right, or that. And I'm like, why do I do this to myself and create all this stress? It's like, this is supposed to be like our passion project, something fun. Or something I'm proud of. Like, it's okay if it's not. Again, I have to find that level of, all right, this is my perfect. That's okay. It doesn't matter. And just get it out there. And it's something to.
It's never going to be perfect to anyone. Like it's just all subjective regardless. So if you can make it, feel kind of like fake perfect for yourself, I think that's really the only thing you can do. Not to say that you shouldn't put in, try to perfect it, so to speak. But yeah, you just got to say, this is what I could do that day. I tried really hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved the placement of the song Healing on this record, and whether it was intentional or not. I'm like, okay, you have all these songs of vulnerability and someone maybe that is struggling can resonate with, but towards the end you have healing, and it's almost like that next chapter, at least for me as a listener, it was like, all right, I'm on this journey of, I feel these songs, I can resonate with them as someone that struggles in my own mental health, and healing almost was like, okay, well, now I'm in this phase of healing, and those joys of when you are healing, coming out of a struggle or a mental health episode or anything. I would love to know for you, how do you find hope in your own mental health when you're struggling?
Well, first, I just want to say placing healing was very intentional. Yes. I find hope by remembering that I've gotten better before. Just knowing that it comes in episodes. It's always going to be a little bit up and down. And I think trusting that I have felt those ways before and I have come out of it is kind of the main thing that keeps me going right now. Yeah. you just have to have trust and hope. Or even if you feel like you haven't come out of it the way that you want to, just knowing that we're not always right. Like our thoughts are not always right. Like you have to be open to the idea of being wrong and just trusting like I might be wrong right now. Like this miserable, horrible feeling full of these awful thoughts. Like I might be wrong. And I'd love to be wrong. And I love proving myself wrong. So yeah, it's a lot of like past cycles, but also I think a lot of hope for me is like super undefinable. It's just like I have to hang on to something. I literally have to. I don't know what it is. But I want to try to do it forever.
I can resonate with that. Like the last like 3 years for me, there's just so much going on where it was like I felt like it was in waves. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm good. But there was like so many moments of just struggling and with my anxiety disorder and just the people around me that didn't quite understand mental health. They'd be like, oh, just get over it. Or this, oh, it's just because the pandemic. And yeah, the pandemic played a role, but mental health still exists and existed before that. I know it got to the forefront with the pandemic, but it was again holding on to that hope, whatever it was. And now I'm kind of in my healing era right now and season, and I'm glad that it's here. So when I heard healing, I was like, oh my god, this is almost like my little anthem right now because this is where I'm at in this season of my life, and
Yeah, I love that.
just so appreciated it. And again, like I was like, this is so great to have all these songs. And then you have, like I said, healing, and like you said, it was intentional. It was just like
I
this
wanted
is
it
so
towards the
good.
end. I wanted it to be like, all right, get over all this shit right now. We gotta
Yes.
get past this. Not in a dismissing myself sort of way, but in like let's just go. Let's go.
And I think sometimes we have to tell ourselves that. I know for me, like I have to be like, all right, come on. And I know you've been so open in your mental health, which is so great to have someone like you on here and your time in residential treatment
Yeah.
for whatever you feel comfortable in sharing. How was that beneficial to you in your mental health to do that?
I had to go. Like it was out of necessity. I didn't want to go because I was so scared of what it meant. And I've been in residential twice now, and I think specifically the second time was even scarier because it was like I already did this. How does that have to happen again? I think it felt like a failure to me, but yeah, sorry.
No.
I like wish that I could forget it sometimes, but I had a really wonderful team of doctors and therapists and also other patients there that really supported me. And I totally put music to the side for many months and didn't even really consider it as a factor in what was going to help me get better at all. So sometimes it's weird to talk about it even in the context of music because it's like I didn't know if I was going to come back to it or not. But it was, treatment is there for a reason. I always say like those places exist for a reason, and they certainly don't always work. It's not a fix all catch all sort of thing, but I'm really glad that I went, even though like I said it was just out of necessity, not out of like, God, I really think I need to take a break right now. I think I need to go. I've had some people be like, so glad you honored yourself and just knew what you need. I was like, honey, I don't know if I was honoring anything. I was trying to get well. I was sick as hell. And yeah, I'm just really glad places like that exist, and it's becoming easier to find access to treatment now, the way that people talk about it. That all that being said, I do honestly I don't ever want to do it again because it's horrible. You have to feel so bad to end up in a place like that. But I'm such a proponent of showing up for yourself and just doing what you need to do. And I'm always going to have a little bit of shame attached to it. And I think talking about it like makes me either break down or get embarrassed still. But I will challenge myself to keep talking about it, even if it feels like not worth it.
Yeah. Oh, and I can't imagine because I know that's the thing with mental health. And that's what we hope with this podcast is like conversations like this, or each person that comes on in their own journey, and whether it's music that gets them through or residential treatment or a therapist, and that kind of normalizing that one, it's okay to talk about, and it helps people feel less alone. Like I'm sure someone hearing what you just said that maybe wants to get better, they're not sure, or they're just going through something that they don't know where to turn, that there are avenues to go and you can come out the other side.
I would have literally never, ever believed that I was going to feel differently than I felt at that time. And this was almost a year ago now, which I just realized the other day. Like I think I got admitted to the hospital in November of last year, and October? No, it's September.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. I know this year is.
And so, yeah, sorry. I just had a little flashback realizing like, whoa, that was That was a year ago. So
Yeah.
scary, but thank God.
And even hearing things about that, like that, let me know if I ever get to that point or to a point where I need to go elsewhere than my therapist, that there are avenues and they can help. Because I think sometimes I know when I struggle, I'm a big isolator. I'm like, I don't need it. I'm fine. I'm good. And then, when I was at my lowest in my mental health and isolating, then people were like, oh, you're so strong. You're so good. And in the outside, I'm like, there's days I don't even leave my couch. I don't do anything. I don't shower. Like I don't, even though I know some people they're like, oh, that's gross. But I'm like, that's mental health, and it all looks different for everybody too. And I think that's important too, is that
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not a one size fits all. Everybody deals with their own mental health in their own way.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, sometimes it's at a level of being, this is a clinical disorder that requires legitimate treatment, or mental health doesn't have to be a disorder. It doesn't have to be any of that stuff. It's just like the way you try to take care of yourself. And I think also like calling people strong all the time is like with what you just mentioned, that people are saying like, oh, you're so strong because that's not the goal. And I mean, for me, it's like, I want to be resilient. I want to be perceived as strong, but I think where sometimes people get it wrong is like being strong that's not what you need to reach for. Like I have this one song called Right Is Me on the record, and it says I'm weak then I am or I am weak then I am tough, but I can still feel right as me. Like you have to accept that weakness is not the definition that people attach to being weak is not really what we need to focus on. But I just get so frustrated with like it being strong that I went to treatment, or strong that I did. It's just like, no, I did what I had to do. I'm just being a normal person. And I appreciate, like, it's hard to explain this in words. Like, I appreciate being perceived that way, but yeah, I just think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. You don't have to be strong, or you don't have to be seen as strong. Just have to be seen as like trying. Yeah.
And I think, yeah, everybody is trying in their own way too. And I think that's what I've learned too, is in my own self, is I have to be patient with those around me too, that they don't get maybe what I'm dealing with. And that even if I express in a certain way, because I'm a big person, if I would tell them, hey, I'm struggling with this, I'm really struggling right now, and they don't quite understand it, I'd be like, well, okay, now I need to isolate again. Now I need to go do that. And that wasn't good for me, but it was almost like, you know what, maybe that person didn't understand, but for that one person, there's like 2 or 3 other out there that if I do open up, it's okay to open up. And then but a lot of times that would stop me in my tracks right there.
Right. And it also just being okay that someone doesn't understand. It's okay. That doesn't mean anything, like you guys don't have to agree. It doesn't have to dismiss your experience, mental health or otherwise. If somebody doesn't see something the same way as you, feel something the same way as you, that's okay. It's so fine.
And something we like to ask too is, as far as mental health awareness, where would you like to see the conversation go? Whether it's more accessibility. I know we're slowly getting there, affordability.
My dog is
oh my gosh, no, yeah, no, we love.
She's just looking for the sun. She's just looking for the sun.
There we go.
Girl, what are you doing?
Where would you like to see mental health awareness go?
God, that is such a hard question. I feel like it's so easy to answer. Just like, I'd love for everyone to be as open as possible and blah, blah, blah. I'd love, honestly, for access to be, for treatment modalities to be as accessible to people as possible. Therapy can be so expensive. A lot of people don't have insurance. A lot of musicians don't have insurance.
Yeah.
I think when I just think about like infrastructure wise of what we have available for people, there are so many people that want treatment that can't get it, or don't know how to get it, or can't afford it, or whatever. So I think my answer to that is mostly like breaking down barriers of access so people can actually get what they need. And obviously there's like shame attached to all these things, and that's its own conversation. But right now, I think the bureaucracy of getting the help that you need is sometimes so deterring. It's such a deterring factor. And the amount of coordination that I had to do to figure out how to even get to the right place was just crazy. So I just love to see more programs that people can actually get into, and it not costing thousands of dollars a night to stay in a hospital.
It's crazy too. And I think a lot of people, when I think about it, and even a road to a therapist, sometimes the first one doesn't work. So then you have to go and do another one and another one. And I mean, there's times where your therapy bills are just so deterring, like you were just saying, because it's like, okay, it's hard enough sometimes when you're really struggling to make the phone call or go through all that. Well, now you have to do that and go through all those loops, and then your
Right.
insurance will send you a letter. And it's like, I've dealt with that. My fiance has dealt with that. I mean, he finally, after like 4 therapists, found one that worked with him, and they have a really great relationship and it's able to work. But it's one of those things that like, it shouldn't be that way. Like
Yeah.
it shouldn't. And I think
Right.
it's too many hoops for people to jump through.
Too many hoops. Even when you're as healthy as possible and feeling great, it's a lot of damn hoops. It's like you're gonna have to be a producer to get into treatment. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I just love to see more ways for people to get the help they need. And also, I mean, I think in this type of conversation, I also like to say, like, you don't have to go to therapy. You don't have to take meds. It doesn't have to be that for you. If talking to a friend helps you, if hanging out with your dog in the sun helps you, like I think there's a lot of people that are like, you must be in therapy to be a good person kind of thing. And for some reason it's coming to my mind, like I see that a lot on Hinge, which I'm not even on anymore, but a lot of people like in therapy is like green flag. It's like that it may not be the same, it's not as functional for everyone, or it's not accessible. I'm
Mhm.
coming back to the conversation of it being accessible, but it doesn't have to look the same for everyone. You don't have to be in therapy. You don't have that doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you a good person just because you're checking that box. So I think I always
Mhm.
want to remind people that getting treatment, so to speak, doesn't have to be a hospital, doesn't have to be a clinical setting, doesn't have to be medication, doesn't have to be ECT, doesn't have to be any of these things. It sucks when it gets to that point for sure, but yeah, it doesn't have to be quote unquote treatment for it to be treating you.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. No one, I don't, maybe not no one, but because if I go back and listen, someone's going to guarantee if I say that, they're going to be like, wait, I said on our episode, but very few people have mentioned that. And it's so important to recognize that, because I do think while we talk about mental health, I'm always very careful about never coming across of like, well, we know it all, or we got our stuff no, we do not have our stuff together. I do not have my stuff together at all. Like I'm in my 30s and trying to still figure it out. And each of these conversations helps a little bit to even us. But at the same time, it's like there's a way to go. And one thing we like to ask too is, besides whether it's music, or you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what do you turn to for your own mental health that say isn't therapy, or anything like that?
This dog. That sounds so cheesy, but this
No.
dog, she's a service dog for me for mental health reasons. And she is, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do when this dog doesn't exist anymore. I hope that I don't exist before she doesn't exist. This is Rooster.
Oh,
She is my best friend, and just like she's not a person, but she's the dog that I go to when I need anything. And she comes with me basically everywhere. I did like a video shoot yesterday, and she came and just sat at my feet while I sang.
oh,
So it's a little cheesy, but honestly, my dog is
no.
like my biggest source of comfort when I'm feeling good too, when I'm feeling bad, all of it. But I think sleep, exercise outside, and exercise that makes you sweat specifically for me is helpful. And my dog.
I love
And then,
that.
girl, I take my meds. I do my meditation. I have an
Yeah.
ice bath situation outside. I mean, I got all kinds of shit I'm trying to figure out. But if it were just me and her, and I had like enough water and food, fuck it, we're good.
I love that. And it's not cheesy as much as maybe even saying it might sound that way to you. There are so many people that have brought up their animals and have said, my animals, and even me, I'm like, I want to have, that's why I'm pushing my fiance. I'm like, I want to get a dog for that reason. Because right now, all I have is during the pandemic and during coming out of that, during really tough times, what saved me, whereas I found like a squirrel bench that you could feed squirrels. And I literally was like, I'm going to buy this. And I would put out food and no squirrels would come. And then randomly, like one day, a squirrel came and a couple squirrels. And now it's to the point where they are what got me out of bed on my lowest days of I need to feed
That
them,
is
because
so precious.
they would come out. And now when I open the door, it's like they come and like they wait for me. And it was like, that's more than anything in my
Yeah.
life of my mental health. Like it was my little squirrels. Like the day, again, we have to move or anything, I'm going to be
Crush.
heartbroken.
Dead.
It helped me. And when I tell people that, they're like, oh, those squirrels. I'm like, they literally have been the best mental health
Yeah.
aid animals are just, I'm like, that's why I'm like, I need a dog. I need it. Now that I have my squirrels, I need a dog to be there.
You need a dog that gets along with your squirrels.
That's what I need to, right? We're looking at maybe like a corgi dog because I heard corgis are like somewhat of the friendlier and the tamer. I don't know. I'm like, I'll find out like what happens out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh. And
You'll find it. You'll find a dog or a
yeah.
cat or a
Yeah.
or just some other breathing being that loves you.
hmm
Oh, that's
It
awesome.
makes so much difference, I feel. And I think so many people are quick to say, oh, well, this is what I do for my mental health. And that's great. Everyone's different. But
Yeah.
I just think the love of an animal is like everyone
Yeah.
that said that,
Yeah,
you've
it's
said it. Like
love. It's
it's,
just pure love. And right, like all the other stuff matters. Like I'm not kidding. I have an ice bath. I do my meditate, all of this like self-care stuff. But
yeah.
an actual connection, whether or not it's with an animal, it could be with a person, it could be whatever. But a real connection between beings versus something that I'm just doing for myself is like, hopefully, I'm helping her too.
Mhm.
It's about her too.
Oh, I'm sure. And it'd be like, obviously, it's crazy to think again, like, we're at the end of September, tail end of September, going into October. There's only so much of this year left, and you have your record that came out. If you can talk about anything, is there anything you're excited about to wrap up this year?
No, I mean, yes, I'm excited for the holidays. I'm excited to see my family. I'm excited for all kinds of things, but I'm just so relieved that my album is out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so relieved. For so many reasons, didn't know if it was ever going to happen. And, it's funny that it's called A Long Year and it's like got released at the end of the year and blah, 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 blah. But I'm just so relieved that it happened. I'm so relieved that I got to make it. I'm so relieved that I'm so grateful that I had the access, via Kickstarter and all those very helpful people, fans, friends, family, that I was able to make the record that I wanted to make. And, for the most part, I hope that it speaks for itself. I love talking about my music, but more than that, I love just playing it for people. And that kind of being the way to communicate. Everything else, I get stumbled. Music, I can just go. I can just say it.
I love that because that's like part of our podcast is that importance of music and mental health. And that music is that universal language. Like there's so many times where it's like, maybe I'm going through something and maybe I can't find the words for that,
Yeah.
but let me put on a song. I know a song for that.
Right. And it doesn't even have to be like in the words of the song, but it can be like in the intonation of a certain phrase or like a breath or a whatever. Like something about that is such a different modality than talking for me, even though it's still technically just words. You're just saying stuff, but it's the way that it's communicated is like almost physically relieving for the body too. So I think, yeah, I mean, I've been looking forward all year to A Long Year being out. And now I kind of just want to enjoy it being out.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about making a live record, maybe like a shorter EP. So that's more like plans and fun stuff that I might do. But for the most part, I'm just relieved that it's out and people can hear it now.
And again, anyone listening, I'm going to have all the links down below for everything, for everyone to check it out. Because I really do. I mean, even, your song Space on there, I think I love that song. And I'm like, this is just such a fun song. So again, I'm so excited and so thankful for you taking time on our show because I'm really excited to push something like this out there because it's so different than what we kind of feature. So I'm really, really glad to have it. And I can't thank you enough for taking time and being so open and vulnerable with mental health because I know it's not always easy to talk about it and just appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Thanks for rescheduling.
Yes.
For saying hi to my dog.
Oh my gosh.
It was great to chat.
And all right, guys, that was my conversation with Temme Scott. Again, I cannot thank her enough for taking time out of her busy schedule to chit chat with us. She said so many important things. And again, such an important artist to have on here, an important record to discuss. So I really hope you guys go check out A Long Year. As always, all links below. Go give Temme a follow and go see what's going on there. If you're in the LA area, definitely make sure you check her out for sure because I think it's such a refreshing release for someone like me that likes to feature so many different people on here and for me to hear it and say, this is something different. I really love this. And again, shout out to Impulse Artists. Remember, if you are liking our show, even just a little bit, give us a follow and subscribe to the show. It really helps our show and all other shows like ours, as well as if you leave us a positive rating or review if you've liked the show at all. It really means a lot to us. And as we have said before, we only have 2 Justine episodes because she has some surgery, so I will be taking the reins. So just keep that in mind. You're not going to hear Justine for a while, but she will be back. And yeah, we will see you guys next time. All right. Bye, guys.